Welcome back to Ambitious, Awakened, and Aligned, the space where we blend soul and strategy, leadership and embodiment, humanity and technology, all in service of helping you rise into the fullest expression of who you came here to be. Today's conversation is pure potency. I'm joined by Andrew Grinbaum, a visionary entrepreneur who has scaled 5 multi-million-dollar companies, coached over 4,000 leaders, and spent more than 30 years immersed in the study of Kabbalah, mindfulness, and universal wisdom. He is the executive director of the Spirituality in Business Institute, where he helps CEOs work less, make more, expand consciousness, and build businesses rooted in purpose, freedom, and light. Andrew is a rare blend of sharp business acumen and deep spiritual devotion, a leader who truly embodies the truth that consciousness is everything. In today's episode, we're exploring how ancient wisdom fuels modern success, how understanding our negative side actually reveals more light, and how leaders can build lives and companies that feel aligned, liberating, and deeply meaningful. This is a conversation that bridges worlds: strategy and soul, profit and purpose, ambition and awakening. So let's dive in with Andrew. So excited to welcome Andrew to our podcast today. Thank you so much for being here, Andrew.
Welcome. Super
Uh,
excited. This is great.
you grew up not far from us here in Canada on the border of Ontario and Detroit. So
Mhm.
we have guests from all over the world. So and we're Detroit Lions fans in this home. So we're super excited to welcome someone who at least knows where the border of Canada is.
Yep. Exactly. And I'm married into a Buffalo family, so now I'm a Bills fan, so
Oh no. Well,
yeah,
that's okay.
by
We will
marriage.
love each other anyways.
That's right.
By marriage. I love that. So you have just an incredible story. You've built multi-million dollar companies. You've spent 3 decades studying Kabbalah and spirituality. I mean, we're going to go deep quick. When did these two worlds begin to really merge for you?
Sure, that's a great question. So I think very early on, after I found I was in graduate school in New York. I spent about a year in corporate America, and then I left because nobody was listening to me.
Mhm.
So I became a consultant in the 90s. I worked from home when nobody was working from home. I was like 30 years ahead of everybody. And nobody had any idea what I'm doing. Like people like, you're working from home? Yeah, I had a fax machine and a phone. There was email then already.
Yeah.
Only nerds like me had email. But um, and then same time in graduate school, I found somebody was flyering on the street, and I was always interested in asking a lot of questions and mysticism and the deep questions of life. And I found a Kabbalah class.
Mm.
So it's happened at the same time. And so it was really lucky for me because it really helped boost my confidence learning all these things and having a community that I can, you know, interact with that also had these deep questions. So when I left corporate America and became a consultant, when very few people were, I was a marketing consultant, very few people were doing that then. There were big consulting agencies, but I was
Mm.
solo. And but I wanted to be listened to. So I said, you know what? Even if I'm young, if somebody hires a consultant, they're going to listen to them. And so I started very quickly using these mystical, spiritual techniques, whatever you want to call them, principles. And I saw that they had value, first of all, from me, to be proactive and to work hard, in my 20s, not working in a corporation or come working for myself. It's very hard, right? So
Mm.
you need the confidence, you need the leadership skills to be able to do that, right? Because when you work for yourself, it goes a little bit like this, right? Up and down. So, and I had no mentors really. There were very few people you could talk to who were working. Now everybody's a solopreneur today, right?
Mhm.
Half the people
So
work for
true.
themselves at home. You can
Mhm.
do that. In 1995, people had no idea what I was doing, and they're like, they would call me like, "Oh, can you pick up my dry cleaning?" I'm like, "I'm working." I'm like, "You're at home. You're not working." Like, nobody got it. So very quickly it started. It really helped, to be proactive and not get upset with people when they asked me to pick up their dry cleaning, um, and work from home. So
Mhm.
that's how it started at basically at the same time, a
Mm.
maybe like even in graduate school, but certainly the first year I was in corporate America, it was really tough for me.
Mm.
And I'm glad I had these tools because it helped
Mhm.
me break free.
Mhm. It's I think we go on these spiritual journeys almost in a personal closed in container often. And yet, where I've seen it be so powerful is when we have that moment that we realize there's this sort of ancient wisdom that it's not just personal, it can actually be a part of a business strategy. So, for you, was there a moment or an insight that occurred that helped you go, hang on, it's more than just about my own personal journey?
Yes. That's a deep question you asking.
We go
There were
deep here.
Yeah, there are 2 parts. I won't be able to give a 30-minute snippet for this answer, right? But, there's 2 parts to it. One, I learned something called the proactive formula, which is an
Mm,
ancient technique, and, that's now everybody talks about being proactive, but this is something that goes back thousands of years, and it's really looking at a lot of us know the yin and yang and sharing and receiving. But what Kabbalah taught me was the central column, the restriction, you know, in a very practical way. And for me to be successful, um, where do I need to restrict my natural impulses? And
mm,
why is that important for my personal growth, right? Where do I and how to manage, going into the fear, right? Of, let's say, leaving corporate America when nobody was doing consulting. Nobody, right? I mean, so it helped me do that. And also I was always looking, um, I grew up, I went out, my family wasn't religious, but I went to like Hebrew school. We grew up Jewish, but I kind of left it behind because nobody was giving me the answers I wanted. I remember asking questions where the
mhm.
teachers would get upset. And I think that's what a lot of religious schools, when you ask
Yes.
the deep questions, you get in trouble, right?
Yes.
You get in trouble, and whether it's Catholic school or Jewish school, it doesn't matter. So I was like, well, these people really don't have the answers.
Mm,
And I always looked at myself, that I wanted to, I also had this desire to bring people together and um, working towards a common good, as a lot of us are, right? That something beyond religion, beyond Jewish, Christian, Muslim, humanity. How do you bring
mm,
people together? And what I loved about Kabbalah is that Kabbalah is the only mystical path where Jews have studied it, Christians have studied it, and Muslims have studied it, and also people in the East. But the Muslims have their Sufis. Actually, one of the first books that explain Kabbalah, called the Zohar, which I have behind me here. It's a huge 24-volume book. The first printed copy of it actually is in the Vatican. So
mm,
Christians have studied it, and all these scientists have studied it. Isaac Newton, two-thirds of what he wrote was on Kabbalah, and his own Zohars the is in London, Oxford, or Cambridge, somewhere, or wherever he studied. It's there with all his notes. So when I discovered the Kabbalah and the Zohar, I was like, wow, this is something that ties everybody together. It ties the
mm,
Pope and Newton and Jews and Christians, everybody together in a common philosophy that can bring people together. And it was very powerful for me to
mm,
study this because I am teaching universal wisdom. I'm learning universal wisdom. I'm not just learning something that's just for Jews or just for scientists
mm,
or just, so those two things, one, the personal tools that help me go into the fear of going solo and starting a company, starting my consulting business with all its trials and tribulations at a very young age. I was like 23 years old, like being Mr. Consultant, 23. Um, and, but also having this having this technology that I could share with people, and I learned that brought people together, right? And that was
Mhm.
the beautiful thing to me, that through Kabbalah, I could speak to a scientist about it. And in fact, my teacher's books, a lot of them, a man by the name of Rabbi Berg, he he would talk about physics and he would talk about quantum physics and mathematics in his books. You
Mhm.
don't typically think a rabbi would talk about this sort of stuff, but he was a Kabbalist. He wasn't a rabbi.
Mm.
So I hope that answers the question. But there was these two
Mhm.
things that came together: the tools to help me go
Mhm.
into, my fear and worry, right, about doing something really groundbreaking for me and having nobody understand it,
Mm.
and then two, having this commonality and this wisdom where I could talk to anybody about it, and I would have a common language. And that's what I love about the Kabbalah, is that
Yeah,
it's a
so
common language for everyone.
and seeing a world that is so polarized today, to really find that common ground and language in however we find that path, I think is so powerful. And I was thinking as you were speaking about, my husband and I went to see Dr. Joe Dispenza this past summer.
Mhm,
And he opened with this conversation about how he learned when he started teaching meditation and bringing it to the world, he would come through the lens of the spirituality side of it, and he's like, "You just shut people down." Whereas when you come at it from a science perspective, people are open to then allow the mystic experience. So, that just kinda came forward as you were talking. One of, your mantras is consciousness is everything. And so, what does that mean in the context of business, leadership? Because again, I find even this like for me, it's all about conscious leadership,
mhm.
and yet it's sort of a dazed kind of look when you go there because I think you and I understand what that means to us fundamentally, but it's not natural for everyone to understand what that means to them. So, I'd love for you to share how that relates and what the context is in business and leadership.
Sure. So that's also excellent question. So I'll try to bring it more into science and data. So my background is also, I was a professor at two different universities. I was the number one rated professor at the largest MBA program, not because I was maybe I was a good professor, I knew how to speak, but I would bring in this Kabbalah stuff
Right.
and I would call it something else. I didn't want to be kicked out for teaching
Mhm.
mysticism. Um, but I also learned what I'm saying. I learned all the data. I did a
Mm.
dissertation and I understand data. So it was really a great place for me to be because the wonderful thing today is that over the last 30 years, there's been people don't know of all the great research out there that proves consciousness. You have to have, and we'll get to what that means. You have to have a heart-based leadership, and being conscious and caring about other people is actually the way to have success and get wealthy. There's so much great data out there. So in my keynotes or when I train people, when there's more time, I show them all the data. I'll just give you one example. So people talk about, and this is something you can take, um, in sales and marketing, use it anywhere. Is that we talk about, right? Us who are quote unquote conscious, whatever that means, right? Like we talk about being heart based, right? Leading from your heart. Well, what does that mean
Mhm.
practically? What it means is that, and there's been research done on this. They took 8,000. I connected to service, 5-star service, right? So there's a great study. They took 8,000 business to business customers across a wide array of industries. And they asked them, well, first of all, what their rating was for their experience, 1 to 5 stars, and how likely would they be to repurchase that product or service, and how likely would they be to recommend that company. And the difference, even between 5 and 4 stars, was staggering. The difference between a 5-star service is, are you going to repurchase? It's almost like 97%. Are you going to
Mhm.
recommend? something like 96%. Four-star service gets cut in half. So are you yes, it's crazy. Are you gonna repurchase this product? If you have a four-star experience, it goes down about 52%. If and recommend goes down to 36%.
Wow.
Crazy. So I have all this 1 to 3 stars, you're done. It's like
Mhm.
4%. 1 to 3 stars, I clump all together. So this data shows that a four-star experience versus a five-star experience that you give to somebody, right, doubles doubles the chances they'll repurchase from you and triple the chances that they will recommend you. And we know this too, right? You go to like a great restaurant or something, everybody treats you well. Hey, so nice to see you, Laurie. Oh my God. Right. You have this great five-star experience. Everybody loves you. Of course, you're going to serve that restaurant. You'll tell everybody about it. But if you go to, like, another restaurant, it was fine, the meal was good, they were you're not gonna talk about it, and you may not even go back, right?
Mhm.
Even though it was a four-star, it was a good meal, right? You got fair value, it was a great meal, people, the waiter came up to you know what I'm saying? You're definitely not gonna recommend them. You recommend people when you have a five-star experience.
Yeah.
So the data is there. And then when I show them this data, I go, "So what does this really mean? What is that five-star experience, right? When you went into this restaurant and you were so welcomed." That was not the standard operating procedure. That
Mhm.
was heart-based love, right? You went into that restaurant and people had this great consciousness of helping you. It's very practical. They just wanted to help you. They wanted to serve you. They were so happy to see you, right? And it could be in a shoe store, it could be in a B2B situation, right? We have people that we connect with that are so authentic and so loving. We want to do business with them.
Mm.
So, and the science backs it up. So that's just the practical way I bring it into companies. I don't talk, oh, be heart based. They'll kick me out. Like, what are you talking? Today, okay, maybe people are more open, but you
Mhm.
say be heart based. Well, what does that
Mhm.
mean?
Mhm.
It sounds woo woo still, even today. But
Mhm.
the data shows if you're coming from your heart, the data shows, if you deliver five-star service excellence, right?
Mhm.
It's a five-star. We all know what five-star means. We all know it, right? We know it in our heart. Do that, and you'll double your sales and you'll triple the number of referrals. And referrals are key, right? It's so hard to find a new customer. Once you have them, you want to get referrals from them because that's gold, right?
Mhm.
So so that's just one way I use data today to show people that and this all been proven already. And it
Mhm.
goes into mindfulness too and meditation and all this stuff. There's countless it's incredible today how lucky we are to live in a world where researchers have done research on this kind of stuff. And
Mhm.
so I connect the dots. Hope that makes sense. Right?
Yeah, that's
I
that's
go in with the science.
it's incredible. Well, and I think with the science, then we can be open to then what is because then we have the experience, then we have the feeling, then we become more connected, and now we can be open to something a little deeper. I think too, one of the things you talk about is there's also this negative side that we resist, this maybe shadow side. We're talking about the light, the heart, the love, but we all have that shadow side.
Yep.
So how have you found through the work, that was a great explanation of the heart side, how have you found, by working with leaders through this shadow side, instead of people avoiding it, what has that experience been like for you?
Sure. I mean, there's more practical ways because the shadow, some people know about. Again, it's also a little bit, right? Weird for people. What does that mean? So I just
So
talk about,
weird.
right? Talk
So
about their ego. We all have an ego that we know,
um,
right? We have an ego that makes us do the wrong thing at the wrong time or
mm,
doesn't, even when we know we should be doing that and we don't do it. And later, like, oh, why didn't I do that? That's our ego protecting us or whatever.
mm,
So I talk about it from an ego perspective. And it's not that people don't know how to do the right thing in a situation. They get worried, they get afraid, right? What will people think of me? Right? All these sort of things. So Kabbalah has a lot of Kabbalah explains that actually those moments, if you want to see miracles in your life, those moments when you're really afraid or worried or angry, there's something there, right? And that's very important to work with a mentor or coach who's been through this process, right? And tell you that's great. That's great that your buttons are getting pushed. That's where you grow.
Mhm.
So, and there's a lot of also data to show this that the greatest leaders and CEOs,
Mm.
they go into the hard parts, the fearful part, right? It's so I give like an example. Why do we love movies, right? Because it's always about a hero who, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a romantic movie or a sci-fi movie. There's these greater and greater difficulties,
Mm.
and the hero, goes into the fear, right? And the longer the movie goes, the harder it gets. And at the end, the dragon is about to kill the bad guy, the good guy, and the good guy somehow gets the strength to get up and
Mm.
slay the dragon, whatever that dragon is, right? In that movie. So why does it speak to us so much?
Mm.
It's because that is us.
Mhm.
So that's our journey in life, is to slay whatever dragon you have. And for a lot of people, it's, even slaying the dragon of not pressing the snooze button,
Mm.
right? In the morning, it's just getting up.
That's
That's a
our that's our 23-year-old son in our home right now.
yeah. Tell me about it. That's a dragon. It could be something much bigger, but you know, I people go, if you want to be a hero in your life, I flip it and go, the greatest, the heroes that we almost worship are extremists, right? Whether you look
Mm.
at Edison or whatever, they give these stories like Edison, right? Supposedly, I don't know if it's apocryphal, right? He broke 10,000 light bulbs, right, before he created the one
Mhm.
um, that worked, right? The story.
Mhm.
Let's see if it was just 1,000.
Mm.
Why is he remembered, right? Why is he such a hero?
Mm.
Um, because he was willing to do 10,000 experiments.
Mm.
Right? So, I'm sure after 1,000 experiments, I'm sure his wife was saying, "Hey, honey, why don't you come in? Have I made dinner? The kids miss you. Come on in."
Mm.
And nobody would have faulted him.
Right.
Nobody would have faulted him for that. But he kept going, and all of these great inventors, scientists, athletes, I frame it like that, like, if you wanna be a, because it's hard to sometimes deal with the shadow and our ego, but
Mhm.
when you're proactively dealing with your fears, you can become that hero. And that's why people start businesses. They don't start businesses to become mediocre, right? They could have a job then, and nothing wrong with jobs, by the way. And I coach a lot of executives
Mhm.
who make huge differences in these large corporations. But entrepreneurs, especially,
Mhm.
they started something because they want to change the world.
Mhm.
Great. You want to be a hero, right? In whatever you're
Mhm.
doing.
Mhm.
Now, you know, start breaking those light bulbs. That's what I use with my clients all the time. Like, how many light bulbs have you broken? Great. That was a problem that happened. You didn't do what you were meant to do. Great. Or something terrible happened. Good. You broke another light bulb. Have you
Yeah.
broken 10,000 yet? Obviously, the answer is no.
Right.
But that's one way. And what Kabbalah talks about is this idea of restriction. You have to restrict your ego when it gets
Mhm.
hard, and it's a normal thing.
Mhm.
You have to share with the world, you receive things, but the most important thing is restriction, to restrict your natural impulses when you're about to do something difficult. And it's gonna be difficult. And that's how you know there's light there. And there's something magical on the other side when it's difficult. Right?
Mhm.
Just like for all these heroes. So I talk about the hero thing because people really get that. And
Mhm.
all the heroes, again, bottom line, are extremists, right? They're extreme people who've done extreme things. They've all climbed their Mount Everest.
Well,
So,
you've climbed several of your own Mount Everests. You've built 5 multi-million-dollar companies, and so you would have had many of these experiences that you're describing to us and broke a lot of light bulbs.
yep.
I would love for you even to just like, to share that journey with us of how you've aligned to the practices you're describing to us, but also how they grew or how you came to leverage them in these meaningful ways, because that's a big story.
Yeah. Yeah, with the entrepreneurial journey, I mean, it's very important, first of all, to have a community of
Mm,
people who are on the same path. That's why for
mhm,
me, having a community of other Kabbalah students, they're also and are honest and authentic about this ups and
mm,
downs, right? In life is very, very important because you never people think, oh, when they discover, I have a whole process. It's like a 5-day process. People discover their purpose, right? And it's
mm,
very powerful. They discover really their soul purpose.
mm,
And some people think they made it. They search their whole life for their purpose and they think they found it and they think that's the goal. No, when you find your purpose, that's when the journey begins. You're going to be tested much more when you're living from your heart, living from your soul, whatever you want to call it, and living on purpose. It'll become harder, actually.
mhm,
So it's important to have a community
mm,
that supports you and is on the same journey. So that's really, really very powerful. And for some people who don't have a community, it's important to have a mentor or a guide
mhm,
or a coach or somebody who's been through the same process. So I look at it like, first off, the reason I'm a pretty good coach is that I believe that the best way people think the best way, um, your greatest teachers are your mistakes. I
mhm.
disagree. It's other people's mistakes.
Oh,
That's
go
the
okay, tell us more about that.
Yeah, the greatest way to grow is not to go through this, is to learn from other people's mistakes, right? What you need to avoid.
Mm,
So me having, built all these businesses, crashed some of the businesses, it's been up and down, right? Like the entrepreneurial journey is,
mhm,
I can share some of those things. And having had hundreds of clients, I can also say, no,
mhm,
this is not a good thing to do. Like other people
mhm.
have done this and they failed doing this thing.
Right.
So that's one.
Mm,
Spiritually, okay, um, it's important Kabbalah, but it not just comes from Kabbalah. Very important to have some sort of um, a spiritual practice, even if it's going out for a walk in nature. 5 minutes, have your coffee outside. Doesn't matter what the weather is. You can also meditate. There's certifications in mindfulness today. Every hospital has them. So these things really help to balance and center you so you can make the right decisions. And what I've noticed and what I see with with my clients, let's say the clients who've had the most success, is that they use kind of three different brains, right? And this Kabbalah goes into, but this is really, really important. So we have, and when you start using this, you'll the quality of your decisions will be better.
mhm.
So this is something I use all the time. So there's our intellectual brain, right? We all know this, right? Our mind. Or so you have a big forehead. It's big brain in there. It's oftentimes very useless, right? If we use unfortunately, if it
I
worked,
know, it's
worked,
so sad.
right? Look at this big brain, and it doesn't work. Sometimes it does, but a lot of people just use their intellect to make
Mhm,
decisions.
mhm,
So the top 1% of leaders do something else. They use their intellect, and that's great, but then they also use their gut,
mm,
right? This other brain. We actually have neurons, right,
mhm,
in our stomach, about the size. There's actually more, but it's about the size of a cat. We have enough brain cells. It's like a cat brain.
mhm,
So you have this little cat inside your gut that speaks to you, not through words, but through gut feelings, right? And what I try to do is help people start utilizing this gut more and more because it'll tell you that's not the right meow meow meow. That's not the right thing.
mhm,
It's just a cat, but it's very smart, right? Like a cat. Cats are really smart. Animals have
mhm,
this instinct. We also have that too, but it means maybe sometimes stopping the intellect and listening to the gut. But the top 1%, I would say like one out of 100 leaders, they also use their heart. And what does that mean, the heart? And this is, again, all backed up by science, which is the wonderful thing. We don't have time to get into it, but this is all data backed that they use their their heart. And the shortcut to it is, again, you want to know how to think from your heart. There's actual meditations you can do, and there's a company, there's a organization. I've one of their executives is one of my coaching clients, Heart Math Institute.
Mhm.
They've done all this research
Mhm.
on heart-based thinking,
Mhm.
um, and for 35 years. So this, I know it sounds woo-woo, but it's backed up by data over 35 years. So thinking with you, what does that mean? So again, the shortcut, the thinking with your heart is this whole concept of five-star service.
Mhm.
So in this situation, what is the highest level way you could serve yourself sometimes and your, stakeholders, whoever's in there? Because sometimes even you won't be able to trust your gut, right? You'll be worried and your intellect saying, but this business looks so perfect. It
Mhm.
looks so perfect. This guy I'm about to hire looks so perfect. My gut's saying, I don't know. Maybe there's something there. But then you have to go, what would be the highest, most valuable thing I can do right now? So, hope that makes sense. The,
Mhm.
the most successful leaders use all three of these brains.
Mhm.
And sometimes you have to just use your intellect. Nothing wrong with the intellect. I'm not saying don't use your MBA from Harvard, right? But sometimes it's not enough, because if it was, everybody with an MBA from Harvard would be super successful, and they're not.
Exactly. Mm.
So these are the three brains that you have to start using. And one of the things I do is I keep reminding my clients to use the other two brains,
Mhm.
in their gut, their little cat, right? What is
Mm.
your cat saying now?
Mhm.
Now, the heart, and also if you meditate, if you relax, because we can see what happens to our gut when we're in a place of fear or anger or worry or sadness. We can't trust our gut either, right?
Mhm.
Because we're in a negative place. And right when a cat is worried or in a corner, they're reacting.
Mhm.
So not only do you have to talk about, what would be the highest, like, what's the five-star service thing to do, but we also have to take that time to meditate, to be mindful, to go out in nature, to calm our heart, to use our heart to calm ourselves. We'll take some breaths even, right? Just relax, and then you can trust these other two brains.
Mhm.
So again, I hope that answered the question. It was a long answer to a
No,
short,
it's
question.
it was a magical answer, Andrew, because I I feel like we've created this world where they're all operating separately, and sometimes you can get into your heart, and sometimes you might listen to the gut, and most times we're in the intellect. So to actually like have that conscious awareness that when we bring all three into alignment, that is where the actual power and presence happens. Thank you for the description of that. It was really,
You're
really
welcome.
helpful.
And I see the results from this from the clients
Yes.
I work with. It's not I just subjective, right? It's but I do see it. The people who combine all three have great results, much better than people who just use one or the other. Some people just go with their gut on everything, right? They're just
Yes.
fire off. That's not good either.
Is
So
it
yeah.
fair to say as well that the, typical forms of success that we would measure, the KPIs we're used to, you would see the people that are trusting all three would have that and also more fulfillment, more joy, more enjoyment of life? Do those come together for you in your experience?
Oh my God, such a great question. You're so good.
Oh,
It's
thank you.
but
I
no,
don't
but it's
receive that.
yeah, yeah, I love that. So actually, I would turn her. I actually start with, and in Kabbalah, we start with fulfillment. What does fulfillment mean to you? That's what
Mhm,
you start with. And when you look at, and this is actually, if you ever take a Kabbalah class from the Kabbalah Center, the first class of the first course, the first class discusses this, right? Because we
mhm,
want to start with that. We look at, make a list. This is something you can do. Make a list of everything you want in life. One
mhm,
thing you could say, one common denominator of all humans is that we are desirous. We have if you can use one word for humans, it's desire.
mhm,
We desire things. We want
mhm,
things, spiritual things, physical things, everything, right? We're a vessel. We just want to grab stuff. So great, no problem. There's no problem in Kabbalah to say, go for what you want. All right.
Mhm,
We're not here to go up to a mountaintop and meditate all day. That's not
mhm,
what Kabbalah is, and that's not what spirituality is, to
mhm,
disconnect yourself from all people and just meditate. And I know a lot of people, and Joe Dispenza, he does great work. It's easy when you're meditating for 2 days or a week with a Joe Dispenza to feel amazing, right?
oh,
Because you're
yes.
just meditating and you're just, oh, you're in heaven, right?
Mhm.
You're like on drugs. You don't need drugs right there. You just feel
It's
incredible, right? I know a lot of people, who go every
I know he did say, he actually showed us a study of doing, ayahuasca compared
uh-huh,
to a 7-day retreat with, meditation, and it actually reacts to the brain in the exact same way, which I mean, I haven't done the first one, and, the second one did feel like a high, and then you go integrate into your life. So I'm
right,
sure
yeah.
that's where you're going.
Yeah, yeah. So, but in any event, so it feels so we can't do that. So
Mhm,
what we do in Kabbalah is we look at write down everything you want. You want a soulmate, you want $10 million in the bank or $1 billion, you want this car, you want a house, everything you want. Okay, write it down. Now, is it really that thing that you want?
mm,
When you look, or it's the energy behind it, right? It's the
mhm,
feeling. Because you can say, imagine, just imagine, when you buy, let's say, a lottery ticket, you already
mhm,
like have the money, right? You buy a lottery ticket
mhm,
and you're already spending the $400 million in your mind. So, you feel such a great fulfillment. Or imagine if you thought you won that $400 million, right? If you for a day, if you thought you won $400 million, you'd be totally fulfilled. Then you find out, yes, next day you didn't win the lottery. Well, you kind of did for a day. You felt the
mm,
fulfillment of $400 million. And that's what we start with. We start with what is fulfillment? And fulfillment ultimately, it's not having the soulmate. It's having, that feeling of waking up next to your soulmate every day, that
mm,
wonderful feeling. It's an energy. Ultimately, what we want, right, is this positive energy that we'll get, this energy of fulfillment from the
mm,
things we aspire for or
mhm,
aspire to get. So great, get them, but know that really what you're looking for is fulfillment. So we start with, what does fulfillment mean to you, right? Um, when you define it like that, then you go towards those things the right way.
mm,
I can tell you on the flip side, some of the saddest people I've ever met and least fulfilled are people who've gotten everything they aspire to get.
mhm,
I'm talking like
mhm,
millionaires and billionaires. They're some of the emptiest people. In fact, I
mhm.
recommend people watch. There's a great documentary called Born Rich. Did you ever hear about it?
No, I haven't.
Born Rich. It's online. It's free. One of the grandchildren of he's a Johnson, as in Johnson and Johnson.
Yes.
They're super wealthy. This kid at 21 is incredible documentary, did this documentary about him and all his other trust fund friends, right? All these super uber wealthy kids. And one kid is more sad than the other.
Mm,
It's a great lesson actually on how to raise your kids and how not to raise them. Because these
mhm,
are kids that have 10 million, 2 million, $20 million yearly trust funds. They have allowances of 20 million, millions of dollars. You
yeah,
think Most of us think, man, if I had a $2 million or $20 million allowance, I'd be pretty happy. No, when you see these kids, you realize, wow, when you get everything without that
mhm,
fulfillment, without
mhm,
aspiring to do something, and that they have nothing. They're the
mhm.
saddest kids I've ever seen on a documentary. And they're going to the Hamptons and they're spending
Right.
money and they're buying champagne and they got nothing. In
Wow.
fact, amazing story. One of the kids talks about he's interviewing one of his friends who's a grandson of one of the oil companies. I don't know which
Mhm,
one. Um, and he says that the happiest he'd ever been is when he went on for a summer between college semesters. He went and worked on an oil rig for his family's oil rig, just for fun. Just went in the summer and worked with all the oil guys, getting dirty and you know. He said that was the most satisfying thing he ever did in his life. And it's such an
yeah,
incredible lesson, like, when he worked hard and he was dirty and he was
mhm,
covered in oil and sweat, and he was striving, he had real fulfillment. He was doing something with his life, right? He felt useful.
Mhm.
So, that's why when you find, you can be, what is purpose?
Mhm.
Purpose is really being useful.
Mhm.
Finding how can you give value today? So that's what we're going to start with. Great. You want that $20 million, right? You want that soulmate. Well, what are you going to do with that money?
Mhm.
Right? Are you just, believe me, I have so many clients who've made it, who have money.
Mhm.
Drinking and playing golf at the golf course gets boring. It
Right.
it's empty, even though you think, I'd like to play golf for the rest of my life and drink all day. No, it's gonna get empty very quickly. So we start with fulfillment, and we realize that when you start with fulfillment, what you're really looking for is purpose and value and adding value to other people.
Mm.
And you can do that whether you have $2 in the bank or 2 billion in the bank.
Mhm.
Whether you have your soulmate or not, whether you have children or not, you can start with that today. And that's what I love about Kabbalah. It starts with this. How can you add value, right? Like you're doing this wonderful podcast. You're adding value all the time. It's not about the money, all that stuff. Of course, money's important,
Mhm.
but by doing this podcast, you're adding value to people's lives. That's fulfillment.
Mm.
So any business we start, any venture, any marriage, anything we start, we
Mm.
first have to ask, how am I going to add, you know, value, purpose every day? And you can do it in little ways. Hope that makes sense.
Love the question. Like, really, for all of our listeners, sitting with that moment of how do I add value? And that really is deep alignment to fulfillment. The value that we bring is deep alignment to the fulfillment that we experience. So, yeah, I love that. I love leaving our listeners with that. I cannot. Okay, time just is flowing here, and time is a construct, and yet for our people listening, they value their time. So, I think we're going to end with this question. As the leader of the Spirituality and Business Institute, I'm really curious, what trends are you seeing in how leaders are waking up right now?
Great question. So I do see that leaders are waking up. They're being, they're coming out like I did. I came out of the closet of being a
Mm.
spiritual business person. And once I came out of the closet about it, I realized all these other people either are coming out or they want to come out of the closet.
Oh, I love that.
So that's what's happening. It's a great
Mm.
time to be spiritual, especially because I can, like, you have, what I bring to them is the permission to be spiritual in their business because I bring the data to them to share with their organizations. I'm doing that right now with, with a big, this guy he's a incredible Catholic. He's really almost a priest, but he's a CEO of a company.
Mm.
Um, and he just now doesn't have the data. He wants to bring all these spiritual concepts from growing up Catholic, and he's really an authentic, spiritual, wonderful, values-based person. It's weird though to say, "Hey, I'm Catholic and
Mm.
I have these great values I want to share with my company." Right? You can get fired for that today, right?
Right.
So, but the data's there. Leaders don't have to be afraid anymore of being spiritual
Mm.
because you can contact the Spirituality and Business Institute or look it up yourself. There's so much data out there that will back
Mm.
you up. So you can lead with the data like I do, lead with the science, right? Like the 5-star service thing or millions of other things. And that's the trend. I think we are coming together. And I think the other thing is, unfortunately, governments, priests, rabbis, professors, they won't save the world,
Mm.
unfortunately. I wish they did, but they can't. We just have elections, meet the new boss, same as the old boss, right? As the
Right.
song goes. But what I do see is that entrepreneurs who are conscious,
Mm.
can, because we can move fast. So that's why I'm supporting business people, because if you have a great idea to help people with mental health, give dignity to workers, clean up the oceans, bring people together, entrepreneurs can move fast.
Mm.
So that's what I see too, is that taking these spiritual principles that help people gain fulfillment um, is the first part of helping to save the world, and entrepreneurs can do that, and I see more and more of them. Right? It's happening. It's a really
Mhm,
great time to be a founder and entrepreneur
mhm,
because money is going, this is the thing too, capital and billions of dollars are going in to do good projects. So it's amazing. If you want to change the world, there's plenty of money today for you to do it. And that's the second part that's super exciting.
mhm.
So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
It's incredible. Andrew, this has been enlightening, supportive, powerful, all the things. And we are going to put all your contact information
Appreciate
in the
that.
show notes so that we can find Andrew in all the ways that our listeners desire to. As we say goodbye to each other, I'm wondering if there's one invitation you would like to share with our listeners. Is there some way that you would like to invite them into your world aside from all the contact info we're going to share?
Sure. Definitely I have this for um, founders, for small business owners. I really want, there's a lot of small business owners who are afraid they want to get from 1 million to 10 million and so on and so forth. I have a process called the Change Agent Challenge. Um, I would love for people to apply to this. I
Mm,
do the 6-day workshop with them one on one. This is again for people who have already businesses, maybe half a million, million, 2 million, but they have something that they want to change the world with. I would invite them to, and we'll put it right in the show notes. I would invite them to apply to this. I do 3 of these a month, and it's
mm,
really a incredible process. And totally free. There's no obligation. They do 6 days. It's like an hour a day for 6 days
mm,
with me, and it'll help them reignite their spark and create a template for building their $100 million business.
incredible.
So going from, show them the template from going to 1 to 100 million. How does that work like? How
Mm,
does that look like, basically?
mhm,
So, and also just go on my site. I have a lot of free resources and playbooks. You can go on spiritualbiz.org.
mhm,
I have a couple playbooks, I have some videos, webinars that are free. But this specifically, I'm looking for CEOs who want to change the world and just need that little bit of a boost.
mm.
I'm here to serve them. So,
Thank you for that invitation. That is I hope
well,
anyone listening will go to the link in the show notes and really honor yourself with that invitation because, the people in our community are here to change the world and are here to have that fulfillment and impact. So, so appreciative of you. Thank you for being here, Andrew.
thank you so much. This was wonderful.
Awesome.
I love you. This was
Thank you.
great.
Oh,
You're
thank
amazing.
you. Thank
Thanks.
you.